The wedding robes felt like a funeral shroud. Shen stood in the center of the grand hall, surrounded by elders who wouldn't meet his eyes. The crimson silk they dressed him in was supposed to symbolize joy, but everyone knew the truth. This wasn't a celebration. This was a sacrifice. "You understand what this means for our sect," Elder Yang said, his voice carefully neutral. "The Demon Sect has agreed to peace, but only on this condition." He understood perfectly. For 3 years, the cultivation world had been at war with the Demon Sect. Thousands had died, villages had burned, and now, somehow, the Demon Sect leader had demanded one specific term for peace: him as a husband. No one understood why. Shen was nobody special, just a 22-year-old cultivator with average skills and no important family connections. But the Demon Sect leader had been clear: him or the war continues. "I'll do it," he said quietly. He had already made this decision days ago, when the elders first came to him with pale faces and desperate eyes. Elder Young's shoulders sagged with relief. "You're brave. The sect will remember your sacrifice." Sacrifice. That word again, because everyone expected him to die. The Demon Sect leader, Xie was known as the Blood Hand, the Slaughter King, the man who'd personally killed over 1,000 cultivators. He was a monster in human form, and now Shen would belong to him. The wedding procession arrived at sunset. Black-robed disciples lined the path, their faces hidden behind demon masks. The pelican that would carry him away was black lacquered wood decorated with silver bones. Even the servants looked like they'd crawled from a grave. He climbed inside, his hands trembling. The curtains fell shut, sealing him in darkness. The journey to Demon Sect territory took 3 days. No one spoke to him. Food appeared at regular intervals, but he barely ate. His stomach was twisted in knots, his mind spinning with horrible possibilities. Would the sect leader torture him, kill him slowly, keep him as some kind of trophy? On the 3rd night, they arrived. The Demon Sect's fortress was carved into a mountain, all black stone and sharp edges. Red lanterns cast bloody light across the courtyards. He was led through hallways that seemed to swallow sound, past disciples who stared at him with cold curiosity. Finally, they stopped before massive double doors. The sect leader is inside. Enter. His heart hammered against his ribs. This was it. He pushed the doors open and stepped into the chamber. The room was surprisingly beautiful. Elegant furniture, soft lighting, walls decorated with night-blooming flowers. And standing by the window, silhouetted against the moonlight, was my new husband. Tall, powerfully built, with long black hair that fell past his shoulders. His robes were deep crimson, expensive silk that whispered with every movement. But it was his face that made Shen breath catch. Sharp features, intense dark eyes, and a mouth that looked like it had forgotten how to smile. He was terrifying and heartbreakingly beautiful. "Shen the man said. His voice was deep, controlled, but there was something underneath it. Hunger. "My husband." He dropped to his knees, bowing low. "This one greets the sect leader." "Stand up." It wasn't a request. He rose on shaking legs. The sect leader crossed the room in 3 long strides. Suddenly, he was right there, close enough that Shen could smell sandalwood and something darker, like smoke and Mel. A hand reached out. He flinched, but the touch on his cheek was gentle, despite the calluses. "You're terrified," his husband observed. "Did they tell you I would hurt you?" They said you might kill me." Something flickered across a handsome face. Anger maybe, but not directed at him. Of course they did. The righteous sects always assume the worst of us. The thumb brushed across his cheekbone. "I won't hurt you. I would never hurt you." "I don't understand. Then Why did you demand this marriage? Why me? Those dark eyes softened. Because 5 years ago, you saved my life. I don't remember. You wouldn't. His husband guided him to sit on the bed, then settled beside him, close but not quite touching. It was during a night hunt. You were 17, still a junior disciple. I was injured, poisoned, and collapsed in the forest. You found me. Slowly, the memory surfaced. A hunt that went wrong, getting separated from my group, finding a man in black robes bleeding out against a tree. I thought the stranger was just another cultivator in trouble, so I used my limited medical skill to treat the wound and neutralize the poison. That was you? He whispered. You saved my life and never told anyone. You even gave me your only healing pill. The other man's hand found his, fingers interlacing. When you left, I tried to follow you, but you were too fast. I didn't even learn your name. It took me years to find you again. I don't understand. Why does that matter? Because in my sect, there's a tradition. If someone saves your life, you owe them everything. Your loyalty, your protection, your devotion. He lifted his hand to those lips, pressing a kiss to the knuckles. I thought about you every day since then. When the war started and I learned you were part of the Tangshan sect, I couldn't bear the thought of you dying in battle. So I created this arrangement. You started this war just to... No, the sect leader said firmly. The war was started by your elders who attacked our villages and killed our people. But I used it as leverage to bring you here, to keep you safe. Safe? He pulled his hand back. You forced me into marriage. My sect thinks I'm going to die here. They think that because they don't understand me. They see me as a monster. The jaw tightened. But you'll learn the truth. I am not the villain they claim I am, and I'll prove it to you. Before he could respond, his husband stood and walked to a cabinet, retrieving a small bundle. He returned and placed it in his lap. What is this? Open it. He unwrapped the cloth to find a pendant, a carved jade piece in the shape of a lotus flower. It was delicate, expensive, and oddly familiar. This is the pendant I lost years ago. I thought it fell off during that night hunt. It did. I found it where you had been sitting. I've kept it ever since. The expression was intense, almost vulnerable. You were the first person in years to show me kindness without wanting something in return. The first person to see me as human, not as a Demon Sect Leader. I've been in love with you since that night. The words hit him make a physical blow. This powerful, terrifying man was in love with me? Had been in love with me for 5 years? I know this isn't what you wanted. I know you didn't choose this. But I promise you, I'll spend every day earning your affection. I'll give you everything. Anything you want, it's yours. You're the most precious thing in my world, and I'll protect you with my life. There was something overwhelming about the intensity in those eyes, the absolute conviction in that voice. I'd never been looked at like this before, like I was something rare and valuable, something worth treasuring. It was terrifying, but also, in a strange way, exhilarating.
The next morning, he woke to find his husband sitting beside the bed, watching him sleep. "How long have you been there?" he asked, pulling the blankets up self-cautiously. "An hour, maybe 2. Said it like it was perfectly normal. You're beautiful when you sleep. Peaceful." His face heated. You shouldn't watch people sleep." "Why not? You're my husband. Everything about you fascinates me." A hand reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind his ear. "I had breakfast brought up. Come, you need to eat." The meal was elaborate. Fresh fruit, warm kanji, delicate pastries, and tea that smelled like jasmine. Far better than anything he'd eaten at his old sect. "This is too much," he protested. "Nothing is too much for you. The sect leader personally filled his bowl, then watched him eat with intense focus. Is it good? Do you like it? If not, I'll have the kitchen make something else. It's good. It's just, you don't need to do all this. Yes, I do. His husband leaned closer. You're precious to me. I need to make sure you're happy, healthy, safe. That's my responsibility as your husband. He was starting to understand that his husband's version of protection was intense, overwhelming even. But there was something almost sweet about it too, in a suffocating sort of way. After breakfast, the sect leader gave him a tour of the fortress. Everywhere they went, disciples bowed deeply to him, addressing him as first master with genuine respect. His husband's hand never left the small of his back, a constant possessive touch. They've been instructed that you're to be treated with utmost respect. Anyone who disrespects you will answer to me personally. What does that mean? The smile was cold. It means they'll learn very quickly not to upset you. They visited the gardens, the training ground, the library. The fortress was massive, and everywhere he looked, he saw evidence of wealth and power. Demon Sect wasn't the poverty-stricken evil organization the righteous sects claimed. It was organized, prosperous, and far more civilized than he'd expected. Why do they call you the Demon Sect? As he walked through a courtyard filled with night-blooming jasmine. Because we practice cultivation techniques the righteous sects consider forbidden. We don't discriminate based on spiritual roots or family background. We accept anyone with talent, regardless of their past. The voice was bitter. That makes us dangerous to their power structure. So they demonize us, spread lies about us being evil. But the stories about you killing thousands of cultivators are true, he said flatly. In war, when they attacked our villages and murdered our people, I protected my sect. That's what a leader does. But I've never killed anyone who didn't attack first. I've never harmed innocents. The righteous sects can't say the same. He was beginning to see that the world wasn't as simple as his sect have taught him. Good and evil weren't clear-cut. Both sides had blood on their hands. That night, as he prepared for bed, the sect leader appeared in the doorway. I wanted to say goodnight, came the soft words. He nodded, feeling awkward. They were married, sharing these chambers, but so far his husband had kept a respectful distance. Good night. The other man moved closer and his heart rate picked up, but all he did was press a gentle kiss to his forehead. Good night, came the murmur. I'll be in the outer chamber if you need anything. Anything at all. And then he left, leaving him alone in the massive bed, confused and strangely disappointed. Weeks passed. He adjusted to life in the Demon Sect, and to his surprise, it wasn't terrible. The disciples were respectful, the food was excellent, and he had access to cultivation resources beyond his wildest dreams. His husband gave him everything: fine clothes, rare books, beautiful jewelry. But it was the attention that was hardest to adjust to. The sect leader was always there, always watching, always touching, always asking if he needed anything. Protective to the point of obsession. When he mentioned wanting to see the market in the nearby town, his husband insisted on accompanying him with a full guard. When he got a paper cut while reading, the other man personally bandaged it and looked like he wanted to execute whoever had made such dangerous paper. It was overwhelming, suffocating, and yet he found himself growing attached to the strange, intense man who treated him like something precious and fragile. The breaking point came one evening when he was practicing cultivation in the courtyard. He'd been pushing himself hard, trying to improve his skills, but he'd overextended, and suddenly his spiritual energy backlash, sending him crashing to his knees with blood dripping from his nose. His husband appeared instantly. He always seemed to know when something was wrong, and the expression on that face was pure terror. "Shenyu!" He dropped beside him, hands hovering like he was afraid to touch and cause more damage. "What happened? Are you hurt? Tell me where it hurts." I'm fine. I just pushed too hard. You're bleeding. The hands were shaking as the handkerchief appeared to dab at his face. You could have seriously injured yourself. Why weren't you more careful? Why wasn't someone supervising you? I don't need supervision. I'm not a child. You could have died. The voice cracked. Do you understand that? One wrong move and his husband couldn't finish the sentence. Instead, he pulled him against his chest, holding him so tightly it almost hurt. Don't do that again. Please, I can't lose you. And suddenly, he understood. This wasn't just about possession or control. The sect leader was terrified of losing him. This powerful, dangerous man was genuinely afraid. Hey, he said softly, pulling back to look at that face. I'm okay. I'm right here. His eyes were wet. You're the only good thing in my life. The only person who's ever... He stopped, jaw working. I know I'm too much. I know I overwhelm you. But I don't know how to stop. The thought of anything happening to you drives me insane. He reached up and touched that face, feeling the tension in the jaw. You care about me. I love you, came the correction. I've loved you for 5 years. You're everything to me. Something shifted in his chest. Maybe it was the vulnerability in those eyes, or the desperate way he was being held, or the fact that he'd been lonely his entire life, and here was someone who would burn down the world to keep him safe. Maybe it was all of it. Kiss me, he whispered. His husband froze. What? I said kiss me. We're married. We've been dancing around this for weeks, so kiss me. For a moment, the other man just stared at him with wide eyes. Then, very carefully, as if he might shatter, his husband leaned in and pressed their lips together. The kiss was gentle at first, tentative, but when he made a soft sound and leaned into it, something broke. A hand came up to cradle the back of his head, and the kiss deepened, pouring years of longing into it. He'd been kissed before. Clumsy experimental kisses with other disciples, but this was different. This was consuming. His husband kissed like he was trying to memorize the taste of his mouth, like he wanted to crawl inside his soul and live there. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, his husband pressed their foreheads together. Tell me this is real, came the whisper. Tell me you want this. I want this, he said, and realized it was true. Take me to bed. His husband carried him to the bedroom like he weighed nothing, setting him down on the bed with infinite care. The moonlight streaming through the windows casted silver patterns across the silk sheets. Are you sure? The voice was rough. We don't have to... I'm sure. He reached up and began undoing the outer robes, his fingers clumsy with nervousness and anticipation. I want you. His hands were caught, brought to those lips. I'll be gentle, I promise. If anything hurts, if you want to stop, just say so. He nodded, his throat tight. He'd never done this before. Had never wanted to, really. But with this man, it felt right. Safe, despite everything. The sect leader undressed him slowly, reverently, pressing kisses to each bit of skin as it was revealed. The hands were warm and careful, tracing the lines of his collarbones, the curve of his ribs, the dip of his waist. Every touch felt like worship. Beautiful, came the murmur against his throat. You're so beautiful. I've dreamed about this, about you. His breath came faster as the skilled hands moved lower, touching him in ways that made his back arch off the bed. His husband seemed to know exactly where to touch, how much pressure to use, like he'd studied his body in preparation for this moment. Wait, he gasped, I want to see you too. The other man pulled back and shed his own ropes quickly. In the moonlight, his body was a map of scars, some old and faded, others newer and angrier looking. Evidence of a life spent fighting, protecting his sect, surviving. He reached out and traced one particularly nasty scar across that broad chest. Does it hurt? Not anymore. His hand was caught and kissed. Nothing hurts when I'm with you. His husband lowered himself back down, covering his body, careful to keep his weight from crushing him. Their skin pressed together, warm and alive, and he felt something in his chest crack open, something he'd kept locked away for years. I think I'm falling for you, he admitted in a whisper. I know it's fast, I know it's probably crazy, but it's not crazy. The kiss was deep, thorough. I'll spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret this. I'll give you everything. My power, my wealth, my heart. All of it is yours. What followed was slow and intense, his husband taking his time to prepare him with oil-slicked fingers, stretching him carefully while murmuring praise and reassurance. He'd expected pain, but the other man was so patient, so gentle that there was only a slight burn that quickly faded into something else entirely. Ready? His husband was positioned between his thighs, control clearly hanging by a thread. Yes, he breathed, pleased. The press inside was slow. His face watched carefully for any sign of discomfort. The stretch was intense, almost overwhelming, but not painful. He wrapped his legs around his husband's waist, pulling him deeper, and was rewarded with a groan that sounded like it had been torn from that chest. Perfect, came the panting. You feel perfect, like you were made for me. When he nodded he was okay, his husband began to move. Long, slow strokes that had him gasping and clutching at those broad shoulders. Every thrust sent sparks through his body, pleasure building in waves that seemed to come from somewhere deep inside. Look at me, came the command, and he opened his eyes to find himself pinned by that intense dark gaze. I want to see you. Want to watch you come apart. He couldn't look away. There was something raw in that expression. Desire, yes, but also something deeper. Devotion, love, like he was the center of his husband's entire world. The pace increased as that control frayed as he urged him on with desperate pleas and the desperate arch of his hips. The room filled with sounds of skin against skin, harsh breathing, and his broken moans. Close, he gasped. I'm so close. A hand reached between them, wrapping around his neck like that arousal, stroking in time with those thrusts. Let go, came the murmur. I've got you. Let go for me. He shattered. The orgasm hit him like lightning, his body cleansing as pleasure widened out his vision. He heard himself cry out, felt strong arms holding him through the waves of sensation. His husband followed moments later, burying himself deep as he found his own release, his name a prayer on those lips. Afterwards, they lay tangled together, sweaty and breathless. He was held against that chest, one hand stroking through his hair, the other wrapped protectively around his waist. Mine, came the murmur. You're mine now. I'm never letting you go. He should probably be worried about the possessiveness in those words. Instead, he thought himself smiling, pressing a kiss to that collarbone. Yours, he agreed, and yours mine too. 6 months later, he stood on the walls of the fortress, watching the sunset over the mountains. Behind him, he heard familiar footsteps. There you are, arms wrapped around him from behind, a chin resting on his shoulder. I was worried when I couldn't find you. I was just getting some air. I leaned back into the embrace. You know you don't have to worry about me constantly. Yes, I do. The arms tightened. It's my job to worry about you. I laughed. Something's never changed. His husband was still overprotective, still obsessive, still treated me like I might disappear at any moment. But I learned that came from a place of genuine love, and honestly, there were worse problems to have than a husband who adored you too much. I have news, he said. A letter came from my old sect today. He felt the tension behind him. What did they want? To apologize and to ask if I'm okay. I wrote back. Told him I'm happy, that I'm exactly where I want to be. It was true. Against all odds, this forced marriage had become real. I'd fallen completely in love with this dangerous, devoted man who would move mountains to make me smile. I love you, he said, reaching up to touch that face. I love you more, came the response, like every time. I'll love you until the day I die and beyond. You're my entire world.
As the sun set and painted the sky in shades of gold and crimson, he kissed his husband and thought about how strange fate could be. He'd come here expecting death, and instead had found life, love, home. The peace treaty had saved thousands of lives, but it had also saved him from loneliness, from a life half lived, from never knowing what it felt like to be truly, desperately loved. "Come on," his husband said, pulling back with a wicked smile. "I have something to show you in our chambers." "Oh, what is it?" "You'll see. I may have acquired some new silk ropes that I think you'll enjoy." His face heated, but he wrapped his arms around that neck. "You're insatiable." "Only for you," came the promise, carrying him toward their rooms. And as he disappeared into the fortress, he thought that maybe being married to the enemy sect leader wasn't such a bad fate at all. In fact, it might just be the best thing that ever happened to him.
Appreciate you watching. Hit subscribe, like, and share. See you in the next story.